Greetings, guys. All right, welcome back to my channel. Today we're continuing Commonwealth Caribbean Trust Law series by Codaline, and we're continuing from the Statute of Uses of 1535. This goes into a short explanation of how the Statute of Uses came about. So we're gonna read this to get a idea, to get a gist of how the Statute of Uses came about in 1535. And we're also going to read other books that goes into much more details on the whole history of uses and trusts. All right. So as I said, this is just for an introduction. All right. So let's go. The Statute of Uses of 1535. The system of uses, and a use is a trust, was clearly beneficial to the tenants. Beneficial meaning the one who has the right to enjoy property and enjoy the fruits of the property, who had no tenants of their own. But it was obviously disadvantageous to the lords, and most of all to the person at the top of the feudal pyramid, the king. So we see that back then there was a pyramid system, a feudal pyramid system, where the king was at the top of the pyramid. And the king would normally go and conquer different lands, conquer different tribes, conquer different people. And when he conquered, he will appoint parcels of land to his lords, and he would have claimed a right to receive payments and rents and profits, percentage of profits, from from his subjects who own the land. So Henry VIII found that the royal revenues were being lost on a large scale. So he attempted to destroy the system by the Statute of Uses of 1535. So this short part here says that the system of use, there was a system called a use, which was a relationship between two people or more, and it was beneficial to tenants and disadvantage to lords and the feudal pyramid, and the one at the top of the feudal pyramid, the king. So Henry VIII, through his legislators, after realizing that they were losing royal revenues due to the system of uses, they attempted to destroy the system of uses, system of trust uses, by the Statute of Uses of 1535. What is this Statute of Uses? All right, let's see. This act, the Statute of Uses, provided in effect that where land was held by A to the use of B, so land was held, so A would have been a trustee or a feoffee, and the land was held to the use of B. The A would have been a passive trustee or a passive feoffee. He would have just held the land for B, and B would have still collected his rents and things like that and enjoyed the fruits of his land without having to pay the king anything, because A was just a passive trustee holding the land and A had nothing to give. So if they tried to go after A for anything in the land, A had nothing to give because B was still collecting his rents and his profits, and they didn't know where B was. Okay? So A was to drop out of the picture and B was to have the legal estate. The Statute of Uses provided that when there was a use in place, A was to be removed or was to drop out of the picture or of the relationship, and B was to have legal estate. And so what they did, they reverted the legal estate back into B. So now the king could collect his royal revenues. The use was said to be executed. So when a relationship was created, a relationship could be created for a term of time. It could be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, as the case may be. What the Statute of Uses did, when it reverted the legal estate back into B, the beneficial estate holder, the use was executed. So upon complete determination of the use, the legal estate would have returned to B, and the use was executed. The statute succeeded in abolishing most uses. So the Statute of Uses 1535, it succeeded in abolishing most of the uses that were used then. But there were cases to which the statute did not apply. For instance, where the fees, remember fees today are trustees, the fees to uses had active duties. So active duties is also a type of trust. So you have passive trust, where the trustee or the fee will just hold the property and have no duties. And then you have active trust, where the trustees would hold the property and have duties to perform. Thus, for example, if the trustees had a duty to sell land held upon use or to collect the rents and profits, the statute would not apply and the use would take effect as before. So the Statute of Uses of 1535 did not apply to active uses, where the trustees had actual duties to perform. All right? It was not long before a way of circumventing the Statute of Uses was found. So after the Statute of Uses was enacted, the people found a way to circumvent the statute. So this involved the clumsy but ingenious device of the use upon a use. So here they say clumsy and ingenious. As I said, we'll read some other books explaining this, the uses and the creation of the trust, that goes into much more details. All right. So a use upon a use. What is a use upon a use? A relationship upon a relationship. For example, and remember that, guys, a use is a relationship. A trust is a relationship. We must know our relationships, or what type of relationship we're forming when we do business with anybody or any organization. Okay? For example, where land was given to A and his heirs, so the land was given to A, so we know that A, once the land is given to A, to the use of B and his heirs, we know that A and his heirs are the trustees. The use of B, B and his heirs are beneficiaries to the use of C and his heirs. So this is the use upon a use. So when I say a use upon a use, we create a use with A and B, and then we create a further use from B to the use of C and his heirs. It had been decided before 1535 that such a disposition C took nothing. So before 1535, the use upon the use, where A took the property to the use of B, and then B to the use of C, it was decided, and decided could say that, hey, this was a court matter. This was decided in court. This word here decided, stating that this was a matter that came before the court, the common law court, and was decided before 1535 that in such a disposition, C took nothing. And we'll get into the reason why before 1535 that would be so at common law. A had legal fee simple, B the equitable fee simple, but the limitation to C was repugnant to B's interest and therefore void. That is before 1535. Let us look up the definition of limitation. Now, we have a statute of limitation, right? But let us look up the definition of limitation, see if we have the definition of limitation. So we go into the Black's Law Dictionary, right? Right, so let's look up limitation. 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 So I'm going to go down. Limitation. All right. Limitations. Limitations of damage. Limitation. All right. Limitation. The act of limiting. The state of being limited. 2. A restriction. 3. A statutory period after which a lawsuit or prosecution cannot be brought in court, also termed limitations period, limitation period, or limitation of action. Let us look at sense 4. Property. The restriction of the extent of an estate, the creation by deed or devise of a lesser estate out of a fee simple. So we will look at sense 4 for what we are reading now pertaining to the limitation to C. The restriction of the extent of an estate, the creation by deed or devise of a lesser estate out of a fee simple. So when we look at the explanation here, A had legal fee simple, B the equitable fee simple, but the limitation, the restriction out of an estate, let's look at it again, limitation. The restriction of the extent of an estate, the creation by deed or devise of a lesser estate out of a fee simple. So, but the limitation, the restriction out of the extent of an estate, the estate being the land that is held in use for B, this limitation here they talk about is a restriction. So at common law, or due to the king, he would have created a restriction to C. So a restriction out of the extent of an estate, the extent, extending the estate from B to C was restricted. So C was repugnant to B's interests and therefore void. Let's see if we find definition of repugnant. It is important when we're reading these documents, we look up the definition of all these words. We don't want to pass a word and not look up the definition of the word. We want to look up the definition of all these words. Repugnant. All right? Repugnant. 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 Repugnancy. Repugnant. Repugnant. Inconsistent or irreconcilable. Irreconcilable with. Contrary or contradictory to the court's interpretation was repugnant to the express wording of the statute. Repugnant, inconsistent, or irreconcilable with. So the limitation to C, the restriction to C, was repugnant, irreconcilable to B's interest and therefore void. So it was irreconcilable to B's interest and therefore void. So the restriction to C was irreconcilable to B's interest and therefore void. After 1535, the second use would still be held void, but the first use would be executed so as to give B the legal fee simple and leave A, like C, with nothing at all. So after 1535, the Statute of Uses, the second use, remember we said they said that they created to circumvent, they created a use upon a use, and the second use was still held void because remember I said that at common law, during that period, there was just common law, execution on the law, cross your T's, dot your I's. They only recognize the legal title. So the second use was still held void, but the first use would be executed. So the first use, remember the statute of use, it caused the legal estate to revert back to the beneficial estate holder. So that is what they considered execution. Let us look up the definition of executed. So we'll see. We'll see what the word execute. When I say executed, what it means. Executed. Let's look up the executed. 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 Executory. Executor. Executor. Executed. Execute. Too far. Right. Executed. Of a document that has been signed and executed will, sense 2. So sense 1 is of a document. Sense 2, that has been done, given, or performed. Executed consideration. All right? The term executed is a slippery word. Its use is to be avoided except when accompanied by explanation. A contract is frequently said to be executed when the document has been signed, or has been signed, sealed, and delivered. Further, by executed contract is frequently meant one that has been fully performed by both parties. William R. Anson, Principles of the Law of Contract, right? And Arthur L. Corbin, edition, third edition, or no, sorry, American edition 1919. Right? So, executed, that has been done, given, or performed. So after 1535, the second use would still be held void, but the first use would be executed, done, or performed, so as to give B the legal fee simple and leave A like C with nothing at all. All right? So the second use would still be held void at common law. Eventually, by about the middle of the 17th century, and by a series of developments that are shrouded in mystery, the Chancellor began to enforce the second use, which came to be called a trust. So there's another read on my channel, Trust and Trustees, where it goes into, well, where it mentions a case called Tyrrell's case that brought about the Chancellor recognizing the equitable interest that created the trust. You all can check that out on my channel. In order to create such a trust, the accepted form of words was unto and to the use of B and his heirs in trust for C and his heirs. So you see the word in here. So this is the use upon the use before, well, after the use upon the use, this is the wording now to bring the trust into existence. So unto, so the land was unto and to the use of B. So B basically made a declaration in himself to hold the land in trust, for him and his heirs to hold the land in trust for C and his heirs. C and his heirs as beneficiary. So B took the legal fee simple at common law. So at common law, the legal title is recognized. But the use in his favor prevented the second use from being executed. So you see how genius these guys were? Due to the Statute of Uses 1535, when that was executing the first use, they turn it around, they circumvent it by creating the trust. B would take the legal title, so he executed the use, he executed the Statute of Uses immediately. As soon as he took legal title to the land, B executed the statute and expressed and created a trust for C. So let me read that again. B took the legal fee simple at common law. So B took it up front. But the use in his favor prevented the second use from being executed. So the use in his favor prevented the second use from being executed, leaving it to be enforced in equity as a trust. So the equitable title now was recognized in trust because B executed his use. The second use could not be executed because the statute of uses only operated on the first use. And B said that C now holds the equitable title, and the Chancery Court or the Chancellor or equity started recognizing the equitable title. The result was to restore dual ownership. By doing this, what the Statute of Uses did, it eliminated dual ownership. It merged equitable and legal title into one party, and ownership is responsibility and ownership is liability. So what the Statute of Uses did, it created one title. So the trust, the result of the trust was to restore dual ownership. B was the legal owner and C the equitable owner. All right. The legislator did not attempt to prevent this evasion of the Statute of Uses since, by the end of the 17th century, the importance of feudal revenue had greatly diminished, and there was little point in the Crown seeking to prevent the development of trusts. So that is just a short introduction of how the Statute of Uses affected the titles and the estates back then, how the Statute of Uses came about, why they were using uses, how the trust came about, and how the trust now continue up until today. All right. So when you born with ownership, full all rights, title, and interest in your property. All right. And trust is what we need to be studying. We need to be studying trusts, understanding trust, understanding property, understanding how trust operates, the system that we live in today. So I thank you guys for your patience. Thank you for your time. Right? Stick with me on this journey. We're learning this from the foundation, all from the seed to the branches. Right? From the seed to the branches. Stick with me. Thank you for your time. All right. Remember, strength in body, powers in mind. If you have any questions, post your questions in the comments and I'll answer the questions. And if there's let's say more than 10 questions, I'll do a video and answer all the questions via the video so that it will be beneficial to everyone else who looks at the video. All right. So as I said, we'll be taking it slow. We'll be going through this book. This is pertaining to the Caribbean. And then we'll go through some other books that I have that goes into much more depth and details. Also, you can also check out the other video on trust and trustees that I'm doing on this channel. That will also add to the collaboration in the knowledge and the comprehension of the history of uses and trusts to the present time. The feudal system still exists today. Remember that. The feudal system still exists today. They just don't use the same words. So they're no longer using fee or fees, now they use trustees. We're no longer using the word use, we're using the word trust. All right? We're no longer using the word king. Now we're using the word state. State. Think about what I just said. All right? There's also a video on the definition, the terms, fundamental terms of trust and estates. All right, that you all could check out. So see you guys. Join me on the next one. Stay up.